Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for watching THV 11 News at noon. I'm Amanda Yeager. Let's start your Tuesday afternoon with a first look at weather. We have meteorologist Kraus Ortiz joining us today. There was some rain spotted in the forecast this morning, Kraus. What's the outlook now?
Yeah, we saw some passing showers this morning. It's a lot nicer now this afternoon. We're actually seeing the sunshine kind of break through the clouds. So we are going to be experiencing variable cloud cover throughout our afternoon. That's actually going to allow us to warm up a little bit more into the lower 70s. But here's a look right now at visible satellite. It's a little bit warmer to our south, though, because there's a boundary there kind of draped across the southern portion of the state. So it's a little bit warmer south of that. But the temperature difference anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees cooler compared to yesterday. We saw highs in the mid 80s. Not as warm for today. A little bit on the breezy side at some spots. We could see gusts as high as 25 miles per hour. But again, looking at our hour by hour forecast, seeing the increase in cloud cover, highs will be in the low 70s for us here in Little Rock. And then the rain chances increase once again, especially over in the overnight hours and early morning hours for tomorrow, because we have a little bit of a pattern where we can expect rain on and off throughout much of the week. So I'll talk more about that with another look coming up.
Well, there are new health concerns this afternoon over the Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine, which is prompting health officials to shelve the vaccine for now. Skylar Henry is outside the FDA headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, with more details.
The CDC and FDA are recommending a pause in the use of the one-shot Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine to investigate whether it's caused some rare blood clots.
Right now, I'd like to stress these events appear to be extremely rare. However, COVID-19 vaccine safety is a top priority for the federal government.
Officials say there have been 6 reported cases of blood clots out of more than 6.8 million doses delivered. All 6 cases occurred in women between the ages of 18 and 48, and their symptoms developed 6 to 13 days after receiving the vaccination.
If you have any symptoms where you have pain and it's unexplainable, go to an emergency room right away. And doctors around the country are now aware of this and they know how to treat it.
Johnson & Johnson issued a statement saying there is no clear relationship between these rare events and its vaccine. There have been similar blood clot concerns with the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is not yet approved for emergency use in the U.S.
What we're seeing with the Janssen vaccines looks very similar to what was being seen with the AstraZeneca vaccine.
White House officials held a conference call with governors this morning to discuss what states should do while the FDA and the CDC review the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. States were already getting fewer J&J doses than expected this week following problems at a Baltimore manufacturing plant.
Even with uneven supply from Johnson & Johnson, we are distributing vaccine supply to vaccinate well more than 3 million people per day.
Still, governors are concerned supplies will be limited and that today's news will cause more people to not get vaccinated when it's their turn. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Silver Spring, Maryland.
Johnson & Johnson says it is delaying the rollout of its vaccine in Europe in response to the concerns raised here in America. Let's take a look at our state's vaccine progress. Our vaccine numbers are going up, but Governor Asa Hutchinson says we need to do more. This afternoon, nearly a quarter of the state is fully vaccinated, 23%. 15% have received at least 1 dose. The percentage of unvaccinated Arkansans continues to drop and has gone down nearly 5% just in the last week. New at noon, the National Park Service is asking for the public's help with a homicide investigation. Special agents are looking into the death of 32-year-old Paige White, whose body was found off Black Snake Road in Hot Springs last month. Investigators are now working to find out more about the days leading up to her death. If you have any information about her or saw her before March 27th, you're asked to call the National Park Service. For the second time in a week, the state of Arkansas is in the national spotlight for recent bills addressing transgender Arkansans. This afternoon, the impacts of those controversial bills passing in the state legislature are entering into the college sports world. A new statement by the NCAA says Arkansas may not be able to host championship events because of those bills. The NCAA Board of Governors announcing on Monday that when determining where championships are held, they will only select locations where, quote, hosts can commit to providing an environment that is safe, healthy, and free of discrimination. A statement also points out that the NCAA has a long-standing policy of inclusivity for transgender student athletes. Let's take a closer look at some of those bills that have Arkansas right in the crosshairs of that NCAA statement. First, we have the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. It's also called the Girls Act. It was signed by Governor Hutchinson last month. It bans transgender girls and women from participating in female school sports. Then you have House Bill 1570. This bill bans gender-affirming medical procedures for transgender youth. It passed last week after lawmakers voted to override a veto from Governor Hutchinson. And finally, a third bill that is currently in the Senate. It's House Bill 1749. It would provide safeguards for teachers who refuse to call a student by their preferred name or pronouns. Also at the Capitol, a scaled-back version of a previous hate crime bill is now heading to the governor's desk this afternoon. It requires a criminal defendant to serve at least 80% of their sentence if it's proven they chose their victim based on their characteristics. Arkansas is one of 3 states without a hate crime bill on the books. The governor is expected to sign this version. Meanwhile, the governor also has signed 2 bills that will raise teacher pay across the state. The bills will create the Teacher Salary Equalization Fund and increase the state median salary by $2,000. That brings it to just over $51,000 a year. Advocates hope the changes will help with teacher recruitment and retention. We also have new information this afternoon on a school shooting in Knoxville, Tennessee. Police shot and killed a student at a high school in Knoxville after the student allegedly fired at officers responding to a report of a possible gunman. One officer was injured in that shooting, and police reportedly found the student in a school bathroom. They told the student to come out, and that's when he reportedly started shooting at the officers. Week 3 now of the Derek Chauvin's murder trial continues this afternoon, and today the state will rest its case. Chauvin's defense will then begin to make its case. Yesterday's testimonies, they were emotional as a jury heard from George Floyd's brother. A cardiologist who reviewed George Floyd's autopsy also took the stand and said that Floyd's heart stopped due to low oxygen levels caused by Chauvin's knee restraint and not drugs or underlying health conditions as the defense suggests.
If Mr. Floyd had simply gotten in the back seat of a squad car, do you think that he would have survived?
Had he not been restrained in the way in which he was, I think he would have survived that day.
Also taking the stand was a use of force expert who testified that Chauvin's actions were not appropriate nor reasonable. And just north of Minneapolis, people remain on edge today following another night of unrest. Demonstrators are protesting the shooting death of a young black man that authorities say happened when a police officer fired her gun, thinking it was a taser. Omar Villafranca has the latest from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
I miss him so much already.
At a vigil for her son, Dante Wright's mother remembered him as a funny and playful father.
My heart is literally broken into 1,000 pieces, and I can never get that back because of a mistake, because of an accident.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! On Monday night, clashes between protesters and officers continued outside police headquarters.
You are in violation of the curfew.
The unrest followed the release of body cam video showing the moments leading up to Wright's death. After pulling Wright over for an expired registration tag, officers learned he had an outstanding warrant stemming from 2 misdemeanor charges. When the officers tried to handcuff Wright, he struggled to get back in his car. That's Officer Kim Potter yelling she will tase Wright. But instead, she's holding her gun, which she then fires.
From what I viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright.
Officer Potter has been put on administrative leave, but some people are calling for her badge, including Mayor Mike Elliott.
You know, in any other line of work, if you kill someone in any other line of work, you are at the very least going to lose your job. We're going through the due diligence to see to it that we can make the right determination.
The medical examiner says Wright died of a gunshot wound to the chest. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
President Biden weighed in Monday, calling Wright's killing tragic, urging protesters to remain peaceful.